It has been said that the most powerful force in the universe is compounding interest. Think about why is that true? It's time. Time is our greatest resource that we have. And the earlier you start, the more time you have, the more potential for impact and putting yourself on the path that's going to take you to where you want to go or where you want to be. So there is no right time except to say today. There's no right asset level except to say today. Start.
Hey, y'all. Welcome to the Confidential Authority, the podcast. This is Danny C. And as you know, the objective of this show is to illustrate just how unique each individual is. People just like you that have a uniqueness need language to be able to be elevated in the marketplace and have an outcome of confidence and authority that grows and transforms your business and your life. Today's guest is no exception. I am joined by Brian Talbott, founder of Talbott Financial Services and a leading certified financial planner for more than 2 decades. Brian has transformed the perception of bookkeeping from, do I really need this service, into my business won't thrive without Brian's support. And interestingly enough, I speak from experience. I have worked with Brian over the last several months, and not only has he organized my books, but he has completely changed my attitude about money and my ability to be smarter with my money without adding to my workload. So Brian, welcome. Thank you so much for sitting down with me today.
Danny, it's great to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
You're so welcome. Okay, so let's just jump right into this conversation because money is always a hot topic. And this is a subject that me and a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with is we make good money, but we don't feel in control of it. Can you tell me why this is so common?
I think for a lot of reasons. I think one, as a business owner, we're all wearing a lot of hats. I am the chief executive officer, the chief financial officer, and the chief cook and bottle washer of my organization. And it's hard to stop and to sit down and just to spend the necessary time that's needed. Sometimes it's just not my forte. Maybe, and I want to come back to that because often that's a story we're telling ourselves, more so than actually maybe being reality. But I'm good at my thing, hanging wallpaper, marketing, creating websites, so on and so forth. One of my one-liners is nobody ever starts their business because they're excited about bookkeeping, unless you're a bookkeeper. But it may not be our forte. We're good at our thing, but there's a lot of different hats that we have to wear. And a lot of times it's just not having the right systems in place. That sounds kind of geeky, but just pausing and having the right systems in place that work for me and in my favor, allow me then to be freed up to put the time and energy where I'm best at. Instead of spinning my wheels over here.
You're absolutely right. One of the things that we work really hard on, my side with my clients is falling in love with the process. But part of that is that you don't have to be good at the process of everything. And so you bring in team members like you who are good at it, who enjoy it, and you put that together and create structure and systems to be able to execute against what you want to achieve. So, let's talk a little bit about, a lot of times people think that to hire a bookkeeper or to hire a financial planner, you have to have a lot of money. And you've worked with clients like this. You've managed really big, high net worth clients. But the truth is that the way that those people get to that is to work with someone like you. So can you talk a little bit about where you have to be to start working with someone like you?
You just have to start. You do not have to have it. And many of the industry, and there's no right or wrong with it, but you don't have to have $1 million to start financial planning. I need help getting to the million in a sense. And secondly, who's to say the million is the right number?
Right.
I don't necessarily need $1 million. I need enough for me. And that's in alignment with the life that I desire to live. Bringing in the right team member, bringing in myself as your bookkeeper, fractional CFO, your coach, that financial planning lens, at any stage, but often the best stage is the early stage. The power that can bring is so powerful. It has been said, and I don't think this is actually true, but it has been said that the most powerful force in the universe is compounding interest. I think that was ascribed to Benjamin Franklin. I reserve the right to be wrong on that. But think about why is that true? It's time. Time is our greatest resource that we have. And the earlier you start, the more time you have, the more potential for impact and putting yourself on the path of where you're ultimately going to want to, that's going to take you to where you want to go or where you want to be. So there is no right time except to say today. There's no right asset level except to say today. Start. And bringing in myself, my team, or someone in a similar position, the value that that can bring is extraordinary.
Amazing. So what I'm hearing you say is that you don't have to be that millionaire to start working
Oh,
with you and your team, is you actually enjoy helping us grow together. Is that correct?
absolutely correct. Absolutely correct.
Fantastic. So one of the things that you and I have talked about, when we started working together on my finances and then just even some of the different projects that we've worked on together is, you hear the word bookkeeping or you hear the word accounting. And when I was searching for someone to help me with my business, those stayed very siloed. And, bookkeeping was, keep my books organized and accounting was get me ready for my taxes. But I was really needing someone to help me with financial strategy as well as those tasks. And so can you talk a little bit about your Talbott Financial Services, it's not just these silos. And so talk about how you really partner with your clients and help them strategize for their finances in the future that they want to build for their business.
Holiday, I love this because it is for all of us as entrepreneurs. I am the business, and the business is me. It's one and the same. The income that I get from my business is what I use to pay my mortgage and feed my family and to take care of my children and and likewise to take care of my employees and so on and so forth. It's two sides of the same coin. So separating business and personal. Um, Now, I will say bookkeeping 101 is separating business and personal expenses so you have clean books, but that's a separate conversation. But thinking about my business in a personal lens and context um, is a is something I don't find that a lot of individuals do. And it's a little bit perplexing to me for the same reason we just talked about. It is where I want to go. So I think it starts with thinking about it in that lens is a different framing. If I think about it from the lens of if I'm an entrepreneur, and maybe I'll give you a quick story. One of my clients owns a dance studio and would love to be able to purchase her own home at some point. It is a significant goal of hers. She has always rented. She has longed to be a homeowner. The story that she tells of the home and the sanctuary that this is going to be for her um, and her gang, I love to be able to. I just loved hearing about that. That's a personal goal. And it's something that is the business going to purchase it direct? No, but thinking of her as the business owner to be able to do that is going to require a financial outlay of X amount for purchase and down payment and upkeep and so on and so forth. That directly comes back to the business because I need to have the income that would enable me to do that. So by working with her to, yes, inside of the business, but it is for the purpose of clarifying her income. What can she afford to draw? Let's look at the house. What's the price range? What are the payments? What are for a first time homeowner, the things that nobody ever thinks about, like window treatments and decorations and furniture and moving costs and closing costs and
Mhm,
all of those things,
mhm.
putting that together a budget and then reverse engineering that into here's the compensation that I need to be able to do that and still do the other things that are needful to me. And how does the business support that? Can the business support that? If the business can't support that, what are the specific things that I need to do to put myself in a place where I can draw that level of income? So
Yes.
it's kind of getting into the weeds a little bit, but it starts with defining what do I want? What does success look like for me personally? Where do I personally want to be in 3, 5, 8 years? Where do I want to be today? What
Yeah.
type of vacation do I want to be able to experience? What type of experiences do I want with my wife, my spouse, my children? What type of impact do I desire to have inside of my community? And getting very, very specific around that. I'll use the example of vacation. What kind of vacation do I want? Or thinking about the idea of the story I was telling you about my dance studio client. What type of home do you want? What type of neighborhood? What does it feel like when you walk in? Getting a vision around that, and then you have to put numbers to it. Um, but the money is a tool that we use to accomplish all of these things. But starting with the vision, then we're going to reverse engineer. What does that mean for me personally? What does that mean for the business?
Oh my gosh, what I love about this, vision is a big part of what I do as well because we help business owners paint the vision for their future and then like you said, reverse engineer and work backwards and build the authority and the marketing plan to be able to get to that vision. But what you said is so important. It's that it's being very specific. So audience, if you're hearing this, really it's whatever vision you cast, it's going to help you in your marketing, it's going to help you in your finances. And then you can hire these people who can help you execute against that vision. And I think, right now in the age of AI can do a lot of things, but it can't help you execute. You still need those coaches and that support to be able to in real time say, what does that vacation look like? What does that home look like? What does your business look like? I know when you and I spoke, like one of the big vision for my goal, my business is to have a building to be able to record these podcasts in and be able to invite people in. And so that specificity towards like what my day-to-day looks like with having a building as part of my, cost centers is something that we're working towards. So I love that you focus and start there with your clients because I don't think you hear that often enough. It's just kind of like I said, when I was shopping for bookkeepers and accountants, it's like, okay, call me when it's tax season and don't get your personal and your business finances mixed together. So that's wonderful.
And that's a start. I mean, that is often what might drive someone to reach out to a bookkeeper. And that's where and they provide an amazing service. I've heard stories from accountants of business owners who show up on April 13th with a box of receipts and says, okay, I'm ready for taxes. No, you're not. But it's so much more than that. But even thinking about the taxes, I'll tell you another quick story because all of these things are intertwined. I spoke with a prospective client this week whose just variety of circumstances led to they had a banner year, but their account was not proactive. There was no ongoing person that was helping them with their bookkeeping, with their tax management, their tax planning, their tax strategies. They ended up with a $90,000 unexpected tax bill
Oh my gosh.
with barely the resources to be able to cover that. The accountant's response was, I about fell out of my chair. I'll just put it on a credit card
Oh,
or go get a loan for that. No, that is not the right response to be able to help cover that unexpected tax bill. But also with the right planning, that's part of ongoing financial management responsibility for, again, personally managing the personal income taxes, but also the business tax for us as the business owners. It's the same thing. If you're
okay.
doing the right planning along the way, we can start to say, oh, you're on track for this amount of income tax when it's going to be tax filing time. One, what are the tax planning strategies we can start looking at to mitigate that liability? Now, a lot of the strategies have to be implemented before the end of the calendar year. If you're looking at a post, there's very little that you can do. There are a couple things. It's always good to ask and talk to your accountant to see what options do I have, but most things have to be done before the close of the year. There's a number of things you can do, but we can start working and implementing those strategies, or at least planning for and setting the money aside so that come April, when that tax bill was due, we're not scrounging for it and saying, oh, just put it on a credit card.
Well, I'll say that makes
Imagine
my
getting
heart
a
skip. That's
bill.
scary.
That took my breath away too. I need to sell a tax bill myself.
Oh,
I do not have the resources to cover that um, ad hoc and
there's
with
not a lot of people that do.
unless your name ends in Gates or Musk. I don't think most of us are just sitting around with $90,000 sitting in the bank that is unplanned for and unallocated.
Yeah.
For-
Oh my goodness. So let's talk about that a little bit because one of the reasons that things like this happen is, there's different types of people in the world is that they don't think about their money or they think about it in the way like, how do I earn it? And then they put it into the bank and just kind of like, ignore it and hope that everything stays okay. So how do you help us go from, I have no idea what to do and I'm just going to keep earning money to being confident in taking a look at those numbers? Because, one of the things I hear all the time is that the avoidance is what gets us into financial trouble. And you can't just put it in the bank and ignore it and hope that everything turns out okay. So how do you help someone build confidence in their ability to manage their money alongside your services?
I love this question. And I think it looks different for all of us. but every single one of us have a money script, a money story that's running underneath our behavior. For some, it can be tied to anything. Maybe there was a traumatic event that happened. Maybe it's based on, I've heard stories of very, very challenging situations when an individual's growing up. Maybe their parents mishandled money. Maybe there's guilt around spending on a certain thing. We're not the type of person that does ... And all of those stories helped us get to where we are. So it's not to discount them. Often just to get to where we are, require a certain level of survival and strategy and coping mechanisms that we have. And I'm using that not in a negative way, but to say that all of us have those stories that are running underneath. One, I think, is just being aware of what those stories are and where it's appropriate to challenge them and say, that's not true anymore, or that might have been true then, but it's not true now. The second mindset shift is thinking of money as a skill. I'm not very great at sports myself. I'll be the first to admit that. But if I was going to go out on the court and start trying to throw free throws, or let's say 3-pointers, I think you call them free throws. This word, we're in the middle of March Madness, so I should know this. But if I'm going to start trying to shoot 3-pointers, I'm not going to do very well. Why? Is that a character issue or is it a skills issue? It's not a character. It's a skills issue. I have never sat down and practiced and thrown hundreds and thousands of shots. I will never be at a Michael Jordan ability to throw 3-pointers and sink them, but I could improve my skill set if I spend the time on that. It's practice. It's thinking of it as a skills issue. And in the sense of maybe I'm not naturally interested or fired up to think about money, as an example. That's maybe like Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan has an incredible amount of talent, right? That's there. But how much time do you spend in practice? I may not ever want to spend a lot of time thinking about money, but it's still a skills and I can still improve. So thinking about it as a skills issue, more so than a character, I think frees us to be able to work on it, without sometimes trying to, and then third, setting a plan. It's cliche. We have all heard it stitched on pillows and on Instagram and everywhere else, but nobody plans to fail. But if I don't have a plan, that's kind of the path that I'm on. And a plan is not a big, complicated Excel spreadsheet that takes 17 years to put together and 40 hours a week to fill out, right? It's just saying, it just has the right systems in place that work for me. Doesn't matter what works for somebody else. They have to work for me. Having a plan and executing on that. And then maybe here's the last part, seeing progress. It's really hard to stick to something when I'm not seeing progress. Maybe I'm trying to lose 5 pounds. And if I am working really hard and I'm working out at the gym and I am dieting and I'm doing all the right things and I'm not seeing progress, I'm going to get really discouraged really fast. And I'm probably going to quit. But if I'm doing all those things and the scale is down 2 pounds the first week, it's down 2 pounds the next week, I'm down 8 pounds the following week. Maybe that's too much for 1 week, but whatever the numbers are, that would better let you know. That gives me momentum and it fires me up and I'm excited about it. And I'm going to continue to commit to the steps that are needed. So finding those small wins, letting those wins stack on themselves. I think it's those two things. It's understanding what stories and scripts are running underneath, and just having awareness around that. Thinking about money as a skill. It's not a character sheet, it's a skills. And some of us have more skills that have had more free throw practice than others. If they're having a plan and then seeing momentum and progress made, it's transformational. And I've seen it time and time again, where individuals were feeling nervous, not knowing where their money was going, maybe feeling a lot of shame, maybe just feeling very overwhelmed, to now having confidence and peace of mind and energy around the progress that they're making. And that's what fires me up. So I love seeing my business owner clients go from over here to over here, which is the end result, is executing on and building the life that they want to live.
Amazing. I like that. I was listening to a podcast and, it was talking about the high intensity goals. And so in this case, like I want to make $1 million next year. And that's the Mount Everest, right? But no one just like puts on the backpack and goes to climb Mount Everest. That's not survivable. And so what you just said is like building the tiny little skills along the way that get you to that Everest. And then the progress is like, okay, if you can scale the wall at the climbing gym, that's step one progress. So for money, as we get older, as kids, we have it in a piggy bank and your mom, you do chores or whatever, and you're dropping and you're seeing those dollars grow in a glass jar or whatever. But as adults, we're putting it in the bank and we don't see it. So what is one way that as business owners, we can kind of like put that progress in front of us? Is that the weekly conversations that you're having with your clients to remind them of like, hey, we made this change in your business and now look, you had this income come in and we've doubled it in this amount of time compared to what you did last year. Can you take me through like how you showcase progress for your clients?
One, it does absolutely. It varies a little bit by client. We're all a little bit different. What motivates me may not be what motivates you. So I think one, just being honest with ourselves about what motivates me inside of the business. It's really important that we're tracking the right things. So the industry term would be your KPIs. What are my key performance indicators that matter for me? And even going back for a little bit, using your example, Daniel, of getting it to $1 million, that being the Mount Everest. It's not to say that's the right Mount Everest for me. Yeah, would it be great to earn it? Would I be happy to take a check that somebody gave me for $1 million? Sure. I'd be happy to take it. I could find a way, good ways and use to put that money to work. But what are the cost of that? Is it time away from my family? So is it, what's the amount of stress that I'm going to have to take? Do I want to get into managing a team of people or not to be able to do that? So starting first with, what is it that I want to build? What does my ideal life look like? And then spending some time and seeing what's going to be required to get me there often will give a tremendous amount of clarity around that Mount Everest goal for me. So I just want to come back to that. It's not to say that every business has to be $1 million. I could make 50,000, 100,000, 200,000 and be very, very successful because it's how I define it. It doesn't matter how Instagram defines it. It matters how I define it. Back to your question though, I still need to be measured progress towards how I define it. I'm saying that as my client, how I define success, how you define success. And having the right KPIs is really important for that. And maybe it's a measurement of income. Last year you made 50,000. This year you made 150,000. Are we measuring that? Are we seeing that grow over time? Where are you putting that 150,000? Kind of going back to the lifestyle, if we're not careful, my wallet just tends to flitter away. I didn't accomplish the things that I have with that. So being sure that the money is going towards what I said is actually important to me. And spending some time on, again, this is kind of the blending of business and personal. Maybe I have a dream vacation that I want to take with my family. Did you take the trip? What are the plans that you're taking towards that? Being sure that we're actually taking specific steps towards those things. So I think it's a little bit of everything. It's tracking what's important inside of the business so that I know that the right levers are being pulled that are going to result in the outcomes that I'm desiring. And then kind of on the personal side, again, these are all intertwined. Am I actually implementing and moving towards the things that I said I'm going to that are important to me? And where I'm not, let's dig into that a little bit. Maybe it's just busyness and I kind of fell off the radar a little bit. So, hey, you told me that for you, Danny, getting that building for your podcast studio is really important. You have $50,000 in the bank now. And for the podcast listeners, we're just making this up. These are numbers out of thin air. I'm not saying Danny has 50,000 in the bank. I dream of today's conversation. But let's say, you now have 50,000 in the bank. When are you going to call the realtor? Let's get that on the calendar. So kind of that idea of helping my clients actually move forward. Taking the action steps that are required to see their specific goals realized. That's one of the things I love the most. I love everything about what I get to do, but seeing my clients move forward and actually taking steps towards what's most important to them.
What I'm hearing you say is, as part of working with you is that you're watching the money do different things and you're stopping and saying like, okay, remember this, goal that you have. We made some spending choices here that don't align with that goal, or, hey, we're getting close to the point where you're going to need to be taking steps to make this goal come to fruition and put that down payment, like you just used the example of a building, is you're seeing my bank account get to a point where like I need to call the realtor. And so you help your clients not only kind of corral how they're spending, but also like waving the flag of like, hey, you're getting to that progress. Are you taking the other steps that I don't control to get to that goal? Because hey, your money's ready. I love that. Is that accurate?
Absolutely accurate. And even thinking about, I hate to use the word budget. I like the word spending plan better. Budget to many of us feels like a four-letter word, or some type of I'm really backing on, and now I feel constrained and I'm frustrated and I can't do what I want to do. That's not the point. But having a spending plan, I think you called out something that's really important in it, where financial planning at its core is just, whether it's applying to the business or I'm applying it to my personal side, is merely the process of aligning my values, what's important to me or to you, with my capital. And where there's value misalignment, that's often where that stress, I'm not making any progress. I don't know where my money is going. I don't know what I could spend. That feeling of frustration, or I'm just spinning my wheels again. Often that's where it comes from. So the process of planning is just bringing those two things together, getting clear on what's actually important to me in this season, and then how do I move towards that? And there are trade-offs. If I want to take I was just talking with my wife this morning. For us personally, we were saying, man, we would love to take our family to Spain. I had the chance to study abroad there for a semester when I was in college. I had not been back since. My kids have never experienced that. I got one in college and one at Layton High School. And there's not too many more years where they're going to be home. And I take action steps towards funding a dream vacation a dream trip. I don't even like the word vacation, but trip or experience,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
inside of a different culture. And then now I'm putting this out to the universe. I might actually take some action steps towards this, right? And take my own medicine. But if I'm going to do that, then it means I don't have money maybe to spend over here. So there are trade-offs. But if I think of them in a value hierarchy, it helps me stay on plan with what I've said is most
Yes.
important, or at least revisit the question of, is that actually important to me? Behavior is language, and what I'm doing it's giving me information, but we're not always aware of. And come back to even the idea of those money scripts, those money stories that are running underneath the surface. As I become aware, I can then step back and realign. Is my behavior in alignment with what I've said is most important to me? And if it's not, why? Was that actually important? Is that the right target? Is that actually what I want to be pulling towards or not? And then realigning and readjusting, right, as needed.
Wow. I love that. So let's talk about kind of what it looks like to work with you. I don't know if it's month over month or week over week, how you meet with your clients, but you've covered a lot of things here that you don't normally hear from a bookkeeper, accountant, even financial planner. But I love it because like you said, it's the same way I approach marketing and branding with my clients. If what we're putting out there isn't aligning with your values, it's not going to stick, and it's going to be a lot harder to show up. And so, you and I have worked together on both sides of our businesses, and we meet week over week to be able to have these conversations. So when you're helping someone with their money and unravel their values and all that, take us through kind of the journey that your clients go through for starting from day one.
And step one is just to schedule a call, and let's get some time on the calendar and meet each other, to learn a little bit more about each other and kind of where you are. But it starts there with just setting up a conversation. When and where I'm going to be working with someone, first, we're going to be spending some time on getting really clear around kind of a full diagnosis. What's the current lay of the land? What are your business finances look like? What systems do you have in place today? Tell me a bit about your business operations. And we're going to be doing a deep dive into that. If you have bookkeeping software in place, many are using QuickBooks or Xero or FreshBooks, Wave, or platform agnostic. We're not limited to one platform. In fact, they all do the same thing. Doesn't really matter which platform we use. We spend way too much time trying to find the right tool instead of just using the tool you already have in the toolbox,
Mhm.
as a little bit of a side. So let's do a full diagnosis around what's the current state of all of these different things. Let's spend some time up front getting very, very clear around what does success specifically look like for you? Where do you want to be in 12 months? Where do you want to be in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? And let's start to reverse engineer the specific things that you're going to need to do to be able to get there. And that's going to translate back into the daily actions that we need to be doing right now. We know the outcomes. Now we're going to need to look at what are the drivers that are going to help me reach those desired outcomes. And that's where I'm meeting with my clients weekly, some are monthly, depends on the cadence of their business and what is going on, the types of things that we're working on. But the key is that we're holding ourselves accountable to the specific actions that we need to be taking to accomplish what we said is most important to us. And inside of kind of the nuts and bolts a little bit, there's the side of keeping the books up. So we're going to be sure that your books are clean. Clean books is not the end. It's just the beginning. But I can't do anything without clean books. We're going to be sure your books are clean. We're going to be sure that you have the right systems in place, the right controls, that you're measuring the right things over time. And again, it's going to look different by person, by company, by industry. But we're going to be sure that you're measuring the right things. We're going to be then starting to dive into things like cash flow forecasting and what are you a seasonal business? How are we going to get you through the slow times? We're going to be diving into the personal side as much as it's helpful. Some of my clients are looking for a lot of hands-on inside of that. Some are very good with budgeting and, day to day and so on and so forth. So that'll look a little bit different client to client, but still holding ourselves, laying out what is really important to me personally, because that's going to directly impact the decision I'm making inside of my business today. So it's where it starts is the conversation, the full diagnosis. We're going to identify the specific things and actions that we need to be working on and in order of what we need to be working on. And then we're going to move forward with implementation.
Amazing. I love it. It's so, mapped out in a way that's like, just sign up and Brian's going to take you through the journey. So that's fantastic. So I want to, we're getting close to time. And so what I really want to ask you is the word financial freedom gets thrown around a whole lot. And that can really look different for everybody. As you said, like, some people have the goal of the $1 million or the $5 million, but others of us just want a comfortable 6-figure lifestyle. It's just, that looks different for everyone. So how do you help, people define their financial freedom and really stick with how that goal might evolve?
Because what you mentioned reminded me of one of my personal maxims, which is it's not the plan, it's the process of planning in which lies so much power because we change. Who I am today is different than 5 years ago. And we have a very difficult time forecasting that out into the future. What will my future self look like in 5 years? I haven't met that person yet. I don't know, but I should hold space for that as a little bit of the sex. So the process of planning is really important. But I think there's a couple layers to your question. One, what does financial freedom look like? Because back to that idea, one, do I know what it looks like?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
is it a whole income? Is it being able to do certain things, to take my family on certain experiences, to give to certain organizations, to have a certain impact inside of my family, in my community, in my faith organization, or whatever it may be for you. So it's getting clear on what actually does it look like around that. Just a little bit of a rabbit. Let's say I'm a fitness coach and you come to me and say, I want to get healthy. Give me more. Is it are you looking to lose a little bit of weight? Are you trying to increase strength? Are you preparing for a certain event? Are you training for a marathon or are you training for a powerlifting competition? The steps I recommend are going to look wildly different based on what it is that you want to do. So I think, and we gloss over that. If I tune into TikTok, please don't for your financial advice. But if you did, we're going to tell you, you should do this. Is that the right step for me or not? I don't know. But I'm going to feel that if I ingest a little bit too much of that financial fluff. So first, financial freedom is, what does freedom mean to me? And am I actually moving steps towards that? But I think financial freedom is much more than that. You touched on this at the beginning. Many of my business owner clients are wildly successful by any measurement. You go out to anybody on the street and ask them, is this person successful? They're going to say yes, but we don't often feel it.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that comes into the alignment. Am I actually living out what I have said is most important to me? What do I feel? What are the words that I hear when somebody is on that path? Again, it's going to sound probably a little different, but these are the words that I hear often: direction, momentum, progress, peace. I can't tell you how many times I hear, I just don't worry about money anymore like I used to. They may not use these words, but I feel congruent. In other words, aligned.
Mm-hmm.
But peace of mind is huge. Clarity, I hear often. Confidence. And I don't often hear this, but directly, but I feel it underneath: a sense of power, of
Yeah.
ownership, of struggling to find the word I'm looking for, but the sense of um confidence and power, self-actualization. I am now in control. I'm in the driver's seat, and I'm pulling towards and building the life that I want to live, not the life that somebody else says I should be living.
Yes. Oh my gosh. What I love about this is, you started with the TikTok analogy, and there's just so much stuff that's coming at us that is what someone else has achieved or what someone else is defining as success. But the truth is, at the heart of all of this is that it has to be your very specific and intentional goals and values. And that's where you start with all of your clients. And then you just marry that with the money management and away we go. So I'm just so grateful for what you do, Brian. That was what I noticed when we first met, is just like, unlike anyone else I was talking to, it wasn't just about the money. It was about like, who am I? What do I want to accomplish? And then you have the expertise to help me get there as far as managing my money goes. So just so grateful for what you do. So the last question that I want to wrap up with is, what would you say to the entrepreneur who's like, at the networking event and they're kind of hedging up to you and they're like, I'm not great with money. What's the first thing that you would say to them to let them know that it's all going to be okay?
That's a really good question. Now to think about it. Um, what would I say? I might say, tell me more. Why do you feel that way? What led to, if it's appropriate inside of that conversation, um, why do you feel that way? And just to hear a little bit. And often underneath that, you'll hear, well, this, that, and so on and so forth. But the only time to start is today. It doesn't matter what I could have done, should have done. I wish I bought Apple stock in 1990.
Oh, we all.
Today. I didn't do that. And nobody knew that that was going to be the one that hold out and won anyways. And we're all trying to find the magic stock right now anyways. And guess what? You can't. I shoulda, coulda, woulda. I could have bought the winning lottery ticket too, while I was at it. It doesn't matter what anything has been done up to this point. What matters is, what are the specific steps I'm going to take today? And the future is bright. Doesn't matter if I feel like I'm good with money or I don't feel like I'm good with money. Again, feel like is not data driven. Anyways, you might actually be doing some really good things and it just doesn't feel like it because I don't know specifically, am I taking the right actions that are going to, so kind of, am I actually moving towards the life that I want? Well, if I never stop to think about it, but it doesn't mean you're not handling money well. And even if we're not handling money well, it doesn't matter, because the question then becomes, what am I going to do today? I'll close with, it's been stitched on pillows and everywhere in between. We've all seen it probably on Instagram, but I love this expression. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. Second best time, today.
Yeah.
What am I going to do today? That's what matters.
Excellent. Brian, thank you so much for sharing all of this with us and for helping us know that we can be confident in managing our money. And one of the things that I want to point out to our listeners is, I believe it's on Brian's LinkedIn page, is that you don't need to be better with money. You just need better support. And this conversation has really illustrated that, is that it's, yourself, the values, the things that you want to accomplish. And when you partner with someone like Brian, he's going to be able to help you get to those steps. And he doesn't isolate just, your personal finances or just your business finances, because as he said, as an entrepreneur, those all get all mixed together because you haven't built enough yet to be able to keep them very, very separate, except for our receipts and bookkeeping. We promise, Brian. But thank you so much for today. So, if someone wanted to reach out to you and get started with managing their money better, where would they go?
Directly to my website, talbottbookkeeping.com. I'm on all the social media pages. Most of them are under either Brian Talbott or Talbott Bookkeeping. You can find me on LinkedIn. Just drop me a message, drop me a DM, or my calendar link is right on my website. But let's schedule some time and let's get to know each other and let's see what the right next step is for you.
Amazing. Thank you, Brian. And listeners, thank you so much for tuning in today. If you want to jump into your authority positioning and your branding, which as Brian discussed today, when you talk with someone about where you need to manage your money and how you need to grow your business, finances is a piece of that. But then what are you going to do with that money to support growth? And being positioned for authority, building up a strong branding strategy is one of the ways that you can grow very, very quickly. And it gives you a strong foundation for whatever comes next. So if that's something that's interesting to you, please visit confident-authority.com. You can also find me on all the socials at Danny C or at Confident Authority. And I look so forward to talking to all of you next time. And thank you again, Brian, for being with us.
Thank you very much, Danny.